there's a question.
Madam President, if I may add to
yes.
Jesse's, like I said in the presentation, we need to get back to the fundamental obligations between the employees and the employers, and examine it to find out what exactly each of them is supposed to do, what is the effect of the restrictions on those obligations under the contract. Then you can come to a conclusion as to whether those contracts are frustrated or not, basically.
Yeah, thank you. We are still trying to get Mr. Kweku Painstil. There are some technical hitches there. As soon as he's available, we'll bring him on. But let's continue with the questions. As someone is asking, what if there's no written contract, but they have worked together for years and developed an understanding on certain terms such as remuneration, working hours, job description, etc.? How would you proceed in these days of COVID-19? Mr. Amuzu, I like your smile. You should see some of the questions here. Yes. Any answer to that? If you don't have a written contract, how do you proceed? But you have an understanding.
Well, I don't think that there will be a lot of difference here. Of course, if you have a written contract, everything is clear and easy for us to deal with because we can construct the terms and clearly come to, you know, one conclusion or the other, that this is what the party really intended to do, and this is what the supervening, the effect of the supervening event should be. But you know, I don't think if the contract is not written, the rules should be any different. The only thing is, of course, in terms of evidence, then it's a different ball game altogether if you're going to be proving that these are the fundamental obligations of this contract and they've been frustrated because there are restrictions.
Mm-hmm. Now, another question, the person says, I've heard some suggestions made on radio and TV that employers must offer their staff of various industries paid leave at this time. Why must the employer pay the employee when no work has been done and when the employer himself is struggling with income?
Under the Labor Act, you are entitled to leave, and your leave is a paid leave. So, you know, we are very early, it's very early in the year when most employees have not started their 2020 annual leave. So it is prudent that if you want to have a safe working environment, you can ask your staff to sit at home and enjoy their annual leave. It will be paid for. It is after they have consumed the paid leave that you have to start thinking, do they still stay at home? Do I continue to pay them? What do I do? You have to start thinking and then start talking with the various employee union. Thank you.
Mr. Amuzu, do you want to add to that?
Yes. So that's an interesting question. If you have a force majeure clause, then it will give, you know, the parties some flexibility. But in the absence of one, even when the default position in terms of the consequences of frustration on the contracts is to make all obligations, future obligations to cease, the parties can always get back to the negotiation table and talk. Even though there is frustration, they can have a discussion and agree on what is suitable between the parties, taking into account the practical realities on the ground. So I would rather encourage, you know, employees, employers, you know, parties to rather discuss on a good faith basis and come to some conclusions as to what they want the future for their contracts to be.
All right. I see here in the Q&A, someone is asking, should parents stroke students be made to pay fees or not? And then there's a related question here. Is there a contract between a university and its students? If so, what is the impact of government restrictions on this contract? How does e-learning come into the equation, and what effect does it have on their existing contracts, if any? Does either party, school or student, have any entitlements? Ms. Amuzu, have you seen this question? It's an interesting one. I see about 20 questions. We are trying to cover as many as we can.
So certainly there is a contract between schools and students. I don't think there's any doubt at all about that.
So the impact of the government restrictions.
Good. So we have the restrictions, just like in Barclays Bank in Zakari. You have, no, not Barclays Bank, RT Briscoe versus ASEAN, there was a restriction. But does the restriction impose an impossibility on you to discharge your obligations under the contract? Between schools and students, the fundamental obligation is to offer a teaching, you know? So if there is a medium through which you can do that, and I have been teaching my students via Zoom, then it will be far-fetched to talk about frustration of such contract. There are some hardship, difficulties, but that, in my opinion, will not amount to frustration.
Another question, how about tenancy agreements? I rented premises but I've not worked for a month. And all rent has to be paid for 2 years in advance. Can the 1 month's rent be recovered? Does anybody want to? Somebody is in trouble there. But I think it's a matter of negotiation. I know a situation where a landlord has, a landlord has written to the tenant to say, I shall not collect the rent for April because I know that you were under restrictions. You know, and if all landlords could do same, that would be exciting. Another one says,
to that, there have been government which have policy-wise directed that landlords should not collect rent from tenants. So from that perspective, you will say that that aspect of it is frustrated. Because if there's a government directive that landlords should not collect rent, then you can do that. Not necessarily in our situation, because we don't have a directive to that effect that landlords should not collect rent from tenants. But we will have to get back, is that tenancy frustrated? The obligation of the landlord to the tenants, can the landlord perform it? The obligation of the tenant to the landlord cannot be performed in order to conclude whether it's frustrated or not.
Yeah. If you suffer, this is an interesting one. If you have suffered loss in your business as a result of government restrictions, are there any remedies available to you? And I think we'll have to wind up with this, looking at, I don't think we're getting through to Mr. Paintstil, but any comment on this? Person wants to sue the government.
Well, I don't think that is really within the realms of frustration in terms of the obligation of the government when you don't have a direct contract with government. If you have a contract with government, you can say that it is frustrated. And if there is frustration, the law encourages the losses to lie where they fell. So it's an
hello.
Yeah,
Secondly,
Jessie.
I think government is giving some relief packages for small businesses. So if this person's business is a small business, why don't the person apply for the relief packages that government is providing? Because you've lost money because of COVID, but it's a small business. I think NBSSI is doing something, giving relief packages to small businesses. So the person should apply to get some funds to continue with the business. But you can't sue government. I don't think you can sue government for the restrictions imposed.
Jessie, you have a specific question here. Someone is asking that Jessie proposed engaging SNIT on payment of contributions to SNIT within the stipulated time. May I know whether the SNIT time limit for payment of contributions is statutory or contractual?
It is statutory. It is in their act, 14 days. It's statutory.
Yeah, members, I think that looking at the questions that have come through, the slides will be of assistance to us in resolving this. At the moment, we have tried our very best, but it seems that we can't get in touch with Mr. Kweku Paintsil. The technical team has sent me a notice that it's becoming an impossibility. So at this point, we would have to bring our webinar to a close. I'm aware that others have other engagements and we've exceeded our time a bit because we also had some technical issues to resolve in the beginning. But our hope is that it will get better and better as we proceed with other webinars. So I'd want to thank all of you who have participated. I see 320 participants. I want to thank all of you. In fact, you make a difference in the way you participate and contribute with your questions. And I would encourage the speakers, especially Mr. Amuzu, kindly look, oh, I'm told it's 335, sorry. So kindly look at the questions that have come in, Jessie as well. And then between the two of you with Mr. Amuzu's presentation, if there's anything you would want to chip in as a result of the questions that came through, kindly add that so that when the slides do go out, it will address all the matters that have been raised. But generally, you've spoken to most of the things.